That's fine. I bet it looked good too.
No, it is looking good.
Yeah, you ask questions, I'll answer.
So you knew Sam Walton, or?
Oh yeah, Sam. I met Sam when he only had 120 stores, and I was building McDonald's in small towns. We were doing small towns under 5,000 population, and I had built McDonald's, and then a Walmart would be built on the other side down. My volume went down.
Oh.
And they built around me, my volume went up. I'm a pretty smart kid, so I needed to meet this Walton guy. So I went down.
Yeah.
And to his office, I'll get it. His office was a Quonset hut in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
You have to take plane, train, and automobile, and a camel the last 20 miles. You can't get there. It's in the middle of damn nowhere. So anyway, he used that as an advantage to business. But he's very well educated. But I went down just 8 o'clock in the morning, walked in Monday morning and said, I'm walking to the receptionist in a Quonset hut bullshit thing.
What's that mean, the Quonset hut?
It's like a half of a tube.
Oh.
World War II shit.
Oh.
Left over from whatever.
Wow.
But right beside it was like a 10-story solid brick building.
Wow.
And he was the first company that bought a satellite. And all his data moved, even though his desk was on 2 cinder blocks. It had one leg broken off of it on 2 cinder blocks. But he had this edifice, this brand new brick building. And it was his control center for data. He was the first company in the data world.
Really?
So he explained all that to me. And anyway.
How'd you get an appointment with Sam?
I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't.
Just walked in?
I walked in Monday morning and walked up to the receptionist. I was 27 years old and said, yeah, I'd like to see Sam Walton. Did you have an appointment? I said, no. So at 4:45
Wow.
in the afternoon, I sat there all day. Every hour I get up and walk up to the receptionist, say, yes, well, Blessley, Mr. Walton, is he available? And he said, no, I'll call. So we sort of got to be friendly, you and me talking and stuff. So 4:45, behind her were like 2 aluminum folding doors, like you see in the kitchen. And these doors slam open. And this guy comes down and says, where in the heck is this? What Blessley's been waiting for me all day. He said, here I am. That's how I met Sam Walton.
Wow.
You only talk to the guy that owns the place. You only talk to the guy that owns the place. He owns the place, and they talk to him.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got a deal right there that I said, you're building. He was wrong. I said, tell you what, next development you do, because all they were doing is 30,000 square foot shitty concrete block building, Walmart, and paving. And I said, next one you do, sell me an acre on the front, and I'll build a McDonald's on the front. I taught him how to do pads. I was the first person ever to put anything on a Walmart pads.
Yeah.
A pad is what they call it on site.
Yeah.
And so we had a handshake deal for $30,000.
Wow.
Fee simple.
That same day?
Yeah, same day.
Jeez.
And so $30,000. My average cost at the time for a site was $330,000. So I get $300,000 discount. Well, we opened a store in Chillicothe, Missouri. That was the very first pad site that Walmart ever did.
Wow.
In a small town. His volume went up 40% the day I opened, and it held. From that point on, now we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Wow.
From that day on, he didn't give me anything. So then later on, he asked me if I'd take over his lunch counters. And he said they had 2,200 lunch counters. And,
Lunch counters?
Yeah, lunch counters inside Walmart. He says, the competition have them, I have to have them. He says, but I don't make any money. I don't do a good job running them. I'm embarrassed of it. Would you take them over? I said, yeah, I will. At the time, our standard restaurant was 3,800 square feet.
Yeah.
I had to reduce that down to 200 square feet.
Yeah.
200.
Yeah.
At the time, my average cost to build one was $2.3 million.
Wow.
And we did $1.5 million in volume. Sam offered me the sites. I get 200 square feet. It does 1/2 the volume, 750.
Wow.
There's no investment, no 2.3 million. Sam pays for everything, pays for utilities, taxes, everything, and it pays straight 7% rent.
Wow. How much in rent?
7%.
Oh, really?
In malls, we pay 13% just in the common area maintenance on top of the rent, which is about 19%.
Yeah.
So here, I'm about 30% ahead. Doing half the volume. It is the most lucrative real estate operational deal ever done for McDonald's.
Yeah. And you, wow.
And so I handshake. Within 6 months, I had all 2,200 done. Convert over. In doing that, I had to lean on my operations team to reduce this kitchen. Shit, the kitchen alone was 1,800 square feet. So I had to reduce the whole thing down to 200.
Yeah.
They came up with a whole new way of cooking.
Really?
Called made to order. It was so successful that 2 years after that, 30,000 stores worldwide changed the kitchens out to my Walmart kitchen.
Wow.
And it's just, what do they say? Innovation is the mother of success, something like that. But anyway, you can do anything you want to do. What you want to do, make an agreement up front and don't know how. That shit, you want to do it. But if it's free, you're like, hell, I'll take anything free. But he was a grand gentleman. He never cussed.
Oh, he never cussed?
He never cussed.
Was it true he drove an old truck, car?
Red and white Ford.
Really?
With the driver's door, he'd been in a wreck. And whenever we'd go somewhere, he'd have to get in the passenger side and scoot across first, and then I'd get in. He never carried money. Never, ever, ever, ever.
So, what if he had to eat or he had to go somewhere?
There's somebody with him.
Oh.
He used this location to his advantage. They now had, they've had the Walmart Air Force. They had over 50 planes.
Oh, really?
So Sam was a pilot himself. Wow. So I was a pilot, and his plane was a King Air. It was a nice plane. Wow. And we'd just take off. And he'd see a Walmart down there and say, oh, which one's that? And says, oh, look at that. That's whatever. Yeah. He had landed at the little dirt strip close. And whoever was running the airport, he'd borrow the car. And he and I would go to the store, and he'd take all the employees in the back and set them in a circle and just talk to them. Wow. Not all of them, he had enough to keep the store running. Yeah. But he only cared about two things: the customer and his employees. He called them social. Wow. Yeah. He didn't care about money. He could care less about money. Really? He told me, I asked him and said, Sam, why'd you get a new desk? He says, well, I'll tell you why. It was awful. Awful. Really. He said, I'll tell you what, if I buy a new desk, then that's an expense for Walmart. And then that expense I have to pass on to my customers in higher prices. Well, my old desk works like this fine. I don't need a new desk, so I'd rather hold the prices down as low as I can. And he told me that he wanted to have low prices so people could buy the basics of life and have a little bit of money left over to go out, take their family to a movie, have a little bit, just a bit of disposable income. But I've got tales that he's had employees that their children have cancer. He pays everything. He pays everything, all costs. And then, right at the same time I met him, he was buying a chain in Florida called Red. Wawa. Big Red, I think it was. Big Red. It had 150 stores. Really? So he went from 120 to 150, and his growth started. Really? Yeah. Mountain of man. And his son replaced him. Oh, really? They had their famous Saturday morning meetings where it started. Sam would wander down Saturday morning to where they would load the truck. Yeah. If you want to know anything about the company, you talk to the truck drivers. Yeah. You know. So he talked, and that grew into their famous Walmart Saturday morning meeting. And it started at 7 in the morning, lasted till 10. Jeez. And it grew to everybody in management, from the CEO all the way down to mid and upper management was in that meeting. Wow. About 300 people. I was the only outsider ever invited in at that point. Jeez. Yeah, and I'd go in, and my thought was, my God, I am glad I'm not their competition. Really? Because with that, no wonder Kmart went down there. That tricky little brick building beside, Saturday morning he had the sales results and line by line P&L breakdowns of every item in every store. Starting Saturday morning, we broadcast. And so you'd be a store manager in Minot, North Dakota. Say, hey Todd, last week you said you want to get this line. See, are you there yet? And then if you didn't meet it, they'd razz you. But here you're being razzed in front of the whole damn company on television. Wow. And they were full of fun. Tom Coughlin was his right-hand guy. And Doug Dane ran the pharmacy. But all these guys, later on, had nothing to do with construction and real estate. But we had McKidd's Clothing in Sears. And we had it on a 5-year license. And I went down to Market and asked David Green. I said, "Can I borrow my kids from Sears? Don't renew that license. I'm moving to Walmart." When I moved to Walmart, our sales of my kids' clothes went up 20 times. 20 times. I could go on forever. I was trying to combine our distribution systems. I took them international. They had a Bobby something was his name, an old fancy little boy, ascot and shit. But he was president of International. He didn't have a store, so I brought management up to Chicago, and I showed. We opened our first store in Japan in 1972. That's a good story too. So at that point, we were in about 120 countries. So I took 3 days and showed them, with all my 13 departments, if we had our knowledge of international and their money, opportunity to grow, how would we do it? So 3 days we outlined how they should expand.
Wow.
To this day, they have stuck with that plan.
Really?
With one exception. We told them not to go to China. And within the first 2 years they opened China, it didn't last a year. It went back down again. They're now in China, but it just wasn't the right business environment in China yet. It took them down. So other than that, they've expanded around the world. We opened our first one in Mexico City.
Wow.
I was there.
Really?
Yeah. But we were really friendly. Sam wanted to hire me. He offered me any amount of money to come with him. But I was loyal to McDonald's. I was having a good time between the two companies.
Wow.
And funny, having a good time. But he offered me blank check and anything. And I said, Sam, I can't do it. I'll work 5 days a week incessantly around the clock. But I have to have two days for the family. But with the Saturday morning meeting, and then you work the rest of the day getting your shit caught up because of the meeting, and then you start flying out Sunday afternoon to the field. You'd have airplanes, and you start flying out. But anyway, giant of a man. One of the reasons I hate the press is when you're top dog, they've got to knock you off the pedestal. They have to come up and say all this